Today we have Sorry Barb. Before we start, go ahead and plug some stuff of yours.
Okay, so we are on Instagram at Sorry Barb. We're also on Twitter at Sorry Barb, but I mean it's like whatever.
Can you spell that?
SORRYBARB as in apologies Barbara. And that's where we're also on Bandcamp at Sorry Barb. So just keep an eye out.
So I guess the first question is where did that name come from? Because I thought that immediately after you told me.
Okay. I love this so much.
So I had been watching an interview. So there's a drag queen named Katya, and she had a show with one Trixie Mattel a couple years ago. And when they were doing like interviews, I was like watching one of them, and in it they asked her to talk about Ivanka Trump, and she said just randomly, "Sorry, Barb, you're a dyke," and then of course immediately apologized about it because it's not great. But I thought I just like kept running through my head, and so I like was at work. I worked at a call center at the time, so I would just like draw in between calls, and I drew that down, sent it to our guitarist Giuliano, who was like the guy I was in it with at the time. And he just replied with, "That would be a great band name." And I was like, sure. We had nothing else at the time, so that's how it ended up coming to be. Awesome. And then it was funny because it was like, oh, apologies, Barbara. It was stupid.
Yeah, and Sorry Barb actually, like, it sounds modern. Like, if you would have said, like, apologies, Barb, that's like a 90s. Like.
Well, that was that was going to be the original EP name, so it was going to be Sorry Barb Presents Apologies, Barbara.
Yeah, like the full thing.
That would be badass.
That's funny.
So, I guess, how did you guys start as the band, then? Like, what's the story behind that?
Okay, so that starts with me and Giuliano. I tell this a lot, but I was actually on a vacation in New Mexico, finding myself, and in reality it was just like a family thing, but I hadn't spoken to him in like a while. We went to school with each other. I met Giuliano in middle school, and we went all through high school, and then he moved to Portland after high school to go to school.
But you guys lived here?
I lived here, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
And so like I didn't go anywhere for school. I just stayed here, and it was like 2017, and he'd messaged me. He's like, "I had a dream about you," and we started talking again. He said, "Yeah, I'm actually back from Portland. I moved back, and I've been like playing open mics. Would you want to sing for me?" I'd never done anything like musically at all, and I said sure. And so we got together after I got back from New Mexico, and we started like learning covers. He was like trying to make me sing louder. A lot of that was what it was. And then Jacob, who is our bass player, both Giuliano and Jacob are not here. Those are the absent members. Jacob got brought in because we also went to school with him, and he was living here too. And like it would be Giuliano would go to him and show him what we had done together once we started writing music. And then we eventually just brought him in. And then I met Sheldon through a mutual group of friends, and we brought him in. He was like really on the fence about being in it for like a long time.
Yeah, it took it was about a year. And it was like, okay, so if I remember the conversation correctly, it was like we were sitting like on the floor like during this gathering, and what were you singing?
I was singing "A Stove is a Stove" from SpongeBob.
Yes. So I heard Alex singing "A Stove is a Stove," and I was like, "Oh, Alex, like you have a lovely voice." And he was like, "What did you say?" You were like,
well, he said, I'd really like to, record something with you sometimes. Like, well, as it so happens. And he came to listen to it. We had like 3 songs at the time, and he was just like he brought all of his instruments.
Oh, yeah.
And he was just like sitting on the floor of our apartment, just sort of listening to us. And then he kept coming. We knew early on, we were like, okay, well, the door is open. If you want to come, you can like totally join us. If not, like, feel no pressure. But he just kept coming, so we were like, okay. And then he didn't tell us he was actually in the band until a couple months ago. We went on a trip to Georgia. I call it the Lesbian Women's Writing Retreat weekend. And on the way back, he was like, I feel like I'm in the band now. But yeah, so once he was in it, and then like it's only been very recently that Jam has sort of tagged along. Obviously he plays bass, but we have him on drums right now because Jacob is our bass player. But we're still figuring out. He keeps coming, so
yeah. No, I'm in the band.
Exactly.
I'm in the band.
Okay, you've heard it here first.
Right.
So Sheldon, why the hesitation at first to join?
I'm gonna keep my options open, kind of girl. You know what I mean?
Okay.
No, I just like it's more like I mean, I think that's part of what it was. I don't think I was ever like not about it. It's just if you come into a band when they have like a lot of material put together already, it takes kind of a long time for you to feel involved in it because it's like, oh, I'm playing with this band, like I'm learning this band's music, and then at some point you start writing songs with the band, and then it's like predominantly the music that you're working on is music that you helped write, and that's when it feels like I'm in the band.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it didn't feel appropriate for me to say like I'm in Sorry Barb. It's like I'm playing with Sorry Barb because I don't know, I guess because even though the invitation was there, it's like
So do you mean like did they have sax parts already? Or I don't
No. It was like they would play songs that they had already, so it was like just guitar, bass, and vocals, and I would like kind of improvise with it. I initially brought like everything that I had because I play a few instruments. Like I play sax, I play flute. Like I brought a clarinet. I had like a djembe. Like I brought a snare at one point, like just the snare. And so like we've just kind of fiddled around with me like moving around on different things and like trying to see if we could find like a keyboard part for this song, or like this song like would do really nicely with clarinet, and we don't use clarinet now anyway, but
you will eventually. But you will eventually.
Yeah.
Well,
Ideally in the full version.
I mean, and he's still doing like all of that today. Like we'll be putting together a song and he'll just be like fiddling around on like several different instruments. There's one song where he'll like switch from flute to sax mid song.
That's awesome.
So yeah, he's
really good.
all over the place.
You did that in the jam, and it blew my mind.
Yeah.
I was like,
It's so much fun.
Yeah, and imagine him doing
so
that,
much
but like
fun.
3 times faster. He like has to literally like.
There's a recording where like the switch in the song is like several measures long, but like I waited until like the last measure, and you can hear me like throw the flute like on the table and kind of like dive across the room for the sax, and I don't make it until like the last beat. It's supposed to be like a full measure run, but I didn't make it until like the last beat, like the last end of the beat. It was like instead of like and it's like.
I've known Sheldon now since 2016, right? Or 15?
I think so, yeah.
And ever since I've known him, he's been like that. And it's been like the most beautiful thing when jamming with somebody, when they can just, in the middle of it, naturally switch to a different one. And it doesn't feel like an awkward transition. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy to do. I mean, that would be like, you can honestly compare it to, I guess you could. So I think a good comparison would be like a guitar to like a 12 string or some shit like that. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like just like.
But even that, it would feel like it'd be too open without that guitar playing for a moment, switching between the two.
I get exactly.
But since we're holding it down for him and he could just like freely switch between it just makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just having a good ear too.
Yeah.
You're like, higher register right now would be nice. I'm gonna switch to that flute. You know
Exactly.
what I mean?
Or it's like we're feeling low volume, I'll do something kind of like yeah.
Yeah, when you pulled it out now, it was like, yeah, that made fucking sense right there. Shit, okay, so before we continue, because I just had a... So I find it interesting then that you felt that way about kind of like, rather than you would be bringing your kind of like ideas to their already made songs, like because I thought what my impression was that they were kind of giving you parts already to play.
No.
We didn't know what the fuck we were doing. I mean, we still don't. So like, yeah, we were like, well, here's a part you could like make something to. Like we were not saying, here, like we want you to do this. It was like, well, here's a section where you could do something like, and I mean, he just blew us out of the water every single time, like to the point where Juliana would like after practices, he would say, "Oh, Sheldon, what the fuck? Like you're so good at this, like you're so great," and he would compliment him so much. I was like, "Can I like neg you a little bit? Can I just bring you down to earth a little bit?" And so
You would tell me I was pitchy.
oh yeah, it would all just be like lies. So he'd be like, "You just did it, like it was amazing. You added so much," and of course all of those are true things. and you could tell he was like uncomfortable taking the compliments. So I was like, "You're actually garbage."
And I would always be like, "Yeah, oh yes, I could do so much better." Oh,
Yeah,
Maybe
try
next
harder,
time,
try harder.
You're in the band
Maybe
now.
next time.
Exactly.
Get
Yeah.
the hell out of here.
That's funny. So I guess like what I would surmise from that is that you want to take a bigger role in like the songwriting process.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
That makes sense.
And he has.
Yeah.
I get like pretty involved, which is part of the reason that I didn't want to consider myself like part of the band until I was like until we were all comfortable with that, because I didn't want to just like jump in and start involving myself in stuff that was already written. I didn't want to feel comfortable saying like, yes, I'm one of the people who's involved in this material, until everybody was like clearly comfortable for that. Maybe my like curve for integrating is just like a longer ramp than other people, but
Well, I can say that in our experience, like having Emmett kind of come into the band, he's been in the band for a couple years now, but like I think for him, it's interesting because he's good at writing on the spot, and for him it takes like a while to, I guess, come up with something that he feels is his own. I don't know if he's ever said like that he feels weird about that. Because, like, now that we're writing new songs, like, he's adding his specific thing to it. I do think, though,
You mean, like, does he care about learning parts that you guys have?
No, not necessarily that, but I just wonder, like, how he felt about that.
I don't think he cares. Honestly, like, especially at the beginning, he was very, very open to just, like, what's already the part. Give me that. I'm going to learn that. And then from there, he's just been really good at doing his own thing anyways. Honestly, like, this is the part. You're very good at telling him, like, you can do fills here, do whatever you want here. And then he just kind of does his own thing.
I can say from like a perspective of a band that, you know, we've been playing for a long time or whatever, like, it's nice to start, like, for you guys where you guys are relatively new, I would imagine, right? Like, it must be a nice feeling to be new, like, fresh, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's fun, it's like, you guys are creating together, whereas we've been playing for a long time, so now we're at that point where we're starting to learn new songs, for example.
Yeah.
And we haven't felt like that in a long time, which is weird.
We've taught so many bass players
Yeah.
the songs that we've taught Emmett through the years. Like, it's been like 3 or 4. So it's just like, it's been a little bit now since we've been learning new songs. It's exciting.
Yeah, it's nice. But anyways, so are you guys all from here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm Tampa.
From Tampa?
Yeah.
Really?
You too, Sheldon?
I mean, like from on what time scale? Like I lived in Newport Richey and Weeki Wachee, and like I go to school at USF, but I still live in Newport Richey.
You're all Floridian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was born in Pennsylvania, and I moved down when I was like 6.
Okay.
Yeah. I say all the time that like Florida like never felt like quite like home. Actually, like a couple days ago, yesterday actually, it was like last night, it was like cold and it like started raining, and I started to get like really emotional because I was like, oh my god, it feels like Pennsylvania weather.
Good.
It's like just like a
Damn.
yeah. But like I spent like the past, what is that, like 15 years here, so yeah.
I always ask that question because us being from Miami, it's like moving up here to Tampa, it was different. It's very different.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, I kind of was like, I want to get out of Florida. So like I've met a lot of people that are from here that are like, oh no, I actually like it here. You know what I'm saying? Because like, and also like Florida gets a bad rap, you know, from like every other fucking state,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Which is crazy to me, but it is. I was just
And
wondering.
you mean Tampa, right? That they like Tampa.
Well, no, I mean some
But
people
they
say
like
Florida
Florida.
in general. Yeah.
I have people who say they like living in Miami, and it blows my mind. They're like, I genuinely like live. I'm like, what the are you talking about?
Yeah.
I like living in Pasco, and everybody I talk to about that, they wholeheartedly disagree with me. It's like the worst place for them. It's never like a positive thing I hear, but I think Pasco's a really neat place to live. I don't know.
Yeah,
There's
some parts of it are like very, very nice.
Yeah.
It's like it's kind of small in the sense that there's not like a whole lot of like the downtown has been slowly changing for the past like couple years, but it's like it's not like like every you know, you can go find a new coffee shop like every weekend or something like that. It's just kind of like, okay, you've got like this stuff that you know about, and you'll have to wait like another 2 years before something new pops up. But like in the intervening time, it's like very comfortable. It's like
I have a love-hate relationship with Florida. It's like where I grew up, so I like it for specific reasons. Like right now, it's great because the weather is nice, but I really fucking hate the heat and the humidity. It's like the biggest detractor. I mean, it just kills me. I say while I'm wearing like a sweater, but it just kills me every year. Like I've always like run naturally hot, so like even as a kid, I was just like sweaty, and so I fucking hate that aspect of it. The people here, like in the places I grew up, tend to lean more towards like hick too, so that wasn't always great, but like I kind of got used to it. Like if you just like kind of are in that setting your whole life, you kind of don't really know a lot other than that, so you get used to it. And like the people are not terrible. They're not certainly like, you know, running down the street shooting like articles would make us out to be. So there are aspects, but I definitely don't think I'd want to like permanently live here for the rest of my life, just because I would like to see something else.
Or moving to Oregon.
Okay, well, maybe.
No, I totally agree with that. Like, that's kind of my perspective on it as well. It's just like, although Miami's very different, it's still Florida, and it's like the weather is a big thing for me. Like, for example, if it was like this all the time, where it's just like in the 60s, I wouldn't move either. Like, it would be like in the summer, especially. Like, I would.
Paradise.
Oh my god, dude. I'd be like, this is perfect, but dude, the fucking
summers are so.
Well, and there's like dry heat I can handle, because like I used to go to New Mexico all the time because I have family out there, and so like that I would just walk around and be like, this is fucking awesome. Like there's no humidity in the air whatsoever. My mom would be like, you have to come inside, it's like 103 degrees. But like when you're from a place that's always humid, you're like, I don't even register that this is hot. And so like if I'm not like feeling gross and swampy, I don't even think it's hot. So like there'll be days like that during the summer, I'm like, this is fine, like I can deal with this Florida weather. But the minute it rains and the minute it's just like,
I don't know why it has to rain during the summer in Florida. Like, just rain every other day of the year. Just give me that. Just don't rain. It's so disgusting.
It's the swamp. It's trying to reclaim this day.
Exactly.
And one day it will. And one day it'll all be underwater.
One day it will. We'll be Venice is what we'll be. We'll be the new Venice.
The alligators.
I mean, if it doesn't just like, you know, swallow it whole, it'll just like mega sinkhole.
If all the iguanas don't take over and all the fucking what is it, anacondas that we have now.
Dude, it's disgusting. You walk out, I lock my door. I walk out, I lock my door, and I'm already. I got like just a nice layer of sweat going. I'm like, that's great. All right. I'm gonna hop into my vehicle.
It's like I don't own any white clothing for that specific reason. It's like, nope, don't need that.
Swear to God, same.
I
I sweat so easily. It's embarrassing, honestly. Like I feel.
You should see this guy after a show.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
You must get super sweaty too.
Oh hell yeah! I mean, we've like I'll do it. We've only really done an open mic, so I'll go on stage for like 5-10 minutes, and I'll just be like, okay. Like I need a powder puff or something. Like I will bring like a hand fan with me to just like, you know, try and turn it into like a percussion moment or something, because it's just like crazy. Exactly.
Just on tempo.
That's hilarious. So I guess so Alex, since you said that you don't really play an instrument. Your voice. So what would you say then? Who are some of your like I guess biggest influences, or who are you kind of like looking up to?
It's hard to say, because like I certainly am not like knowingly trying to emulate anything, because I wouldn't like know how to. I'm certainly not like trained in any way. I mean, like I was in chorus as a kid, but like that only gets you so far. And so I mean, who I like, I'm a huge fan of like Florence and the Machine, but would I say I like ever try and do anything like that? Hell to the no. It's not gonna happen. So hard thing to say. I'd say I could probably tell you like, well, I couldn't even do that. Like I was gonna say most of what I think I would probably see any sort of like influence in, if I were to look at it, would be like lyrics wise, but that's kind of all over the place too. It's hard to like, I try not to think about myself too often, so it's like, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I can say from the experience of like singing when I was younger, I was like really into the Beatles and Radiohead, Tom York specifically, And I remember for the longest time, like, I struggled with, I guess, like, I want to say hitting the notes was a big thing, but also just being comfortable. Like, and you were mentioning about, like, the singing, I guess singing, like, loud into the mic.
Yeah, well, not even that, just, like, with one other person, because, like, I'm super shy, like, when I'm not comfortable in a position or a situation. So, like, the first time Giuliano ever, like, did anything together, we met up, we went to dinner, and then he just, like, had his guitar in the back, and he said, okay, let's go out and, like, play a couple songs. We had, like, been exchanging songs on Spotify, and so he's like, okay, I learned a couple of these, and he, like, I was, like, singing pretty low, because also I'm in a fucking parking lot at, like, of a restaurant at 11 o'clock at night. No way am I gonna just, like, belt. But also my voice was... I probably could have, yeah. Would it have sounded very good? Probably not. And so, like, that was a lot of it at the beginning, because, again, it was, like, mostly covers at the beginning. He pushed me to, like, write lyrics and stuff very early on, which, thank God he did. But, you know, I was like, I can't fucking do this. So, yeah, I was, like, trying to be louder, just getting comfortable, like, actually singing in front of someone, because I could, like, jokingly do it, and it always ends up in, like, an operatic, weird place, yeah. Which is what that SpongeBob song was. Yeah. But... seriously, I had never done it in front of people. Like, I could barely even show my mom any of the songs we had until, like, maybe just a week ago.
Really?
Yeah, I get very like, I knew she would like them, because she's my mom. What is she going to say? This is trash.
That would be hilarious.
Yeah. It's like, you could do better, but...
Get out of here.
But I could just, like, could not, like, bear the thought of it. Like, it was just, like, so embarrassing to me, so...
I'm the same way.
Yeah, it's a lot of that. I can't... It's been a journey trying to get to that point.
I can say that, like, I think being a singer and not having an instrument to play like with, I think that's honestly one of the hardest things to do. Because, like, I know for a fact that if it were me, I don't think I could do that.
Well, I'm like, where the fuck do my hands go?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like...
It's very awkward.
Like,
what to do with my hands.
Yeah, I'll, like, going back, like, Florence and the Machine, she's great because she's, like, but she's got music where she can just, like, do this type of shit, and, like, it fits.
Dude, just do that.
Why? It doesn't always work. When we do, like, jam sessions, I'll just, like, wail, and I'll be, like, upside down on the couch with, like, a bottle of wine in my hand, and I'll do stuff like that then. Cool. Yeah, but, no, so, like... I usually just, like, hold on to the mic stand, like, for dear life, like, pushing it down by mistake, because I'm just like, what do I do? So, yeah.
Isn't that funny to think that, like, you could kind of not necessarily steal but borrow, like, ideas from, like, other singers that don't play instruments, right? Like, just, like, literally, like, what they do on stage, like, their mannerisms or whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like, that's an interesting thing. That's, like, an art in its own, you know? Like, Jim Morrison or something like that, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just... I don't know. I wonder if people, like, just, like, the general public would even know, like, how difficult that can be to just be, like, a, you know, just a singer and not necessarily...
I don't think so, man. I don't think they... No, I don't think
they yourself in a vulnerable spot.
It's very vulnerable.
Yeah.
It's very
especially when you're a singer, like, in the middle, and, like, people are generally looking at you because they're like, wait, what is he saying?
Yeah, they're focusing.
Most
and it's your words.
Awesome. Bird buddies.
Most people would do that, right? You're listening to a singer, what they're saying, and things like that. So you're right.
And so, like, if they're, like, they look uncomfortable up there, their people get uncomfortable. And so, like, you kind of set the bar, too, with that, and so...
The thing is, too, like, there's some... Like, sometimes that kind of, like, seeming awkward can actually be, like, a cool thing. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, what's that? There's a group, fucking A, what is it? I think it's something Island. Fucking A, dude. They had, like, this crazy performance on a late-night show. I don't remember their name. But... The singer was just, like, very, like, weird and, like, awkward. Yeah. And he was just like, all I want is you. Like, he was just, like, in it like that. Oh, what the fuck is their name, bro?
I think the guy from Joy Division was very awkward.
Oh, yeah, that's true, too, yeah.
I think, like, if I were, like, sitting in front of the guy, I'd be like, is he about to, like, kill all of us?
He's gonna kill all the people?
He's just gonna, like, just shoot all of us right now. But... So it works, you know.
I feel like early 2000s was all about those timid, like, awkward singers coming up. Sorry to cut you off.
That's true. That's a good point.
You just have to own it. I think that's the best thing. I used to play drums like this.
Oh, yeah.
And I used to get so much shit from, like, all my band members. Like, oh, dude, you have to... we're all showing our face. You have to show your face. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck. No, I'm not doing that. So, just, recently. Yeah. Not recently. It's been a couple years now.
It's like, why can't they just look at me with their ears or with their eyes closed? Yes. Like, just listen. Just listen. Yeah.
Why are you looking at my face?
Last time I watched y'all, you were smiling back there.
Yeah.
You were so happy.
Yeah. Now, like, recently it's been better, but that was my thing. That's how I used to play drums. Yeah. I used to just stare at my snare.
Yeah, I find alcohol helps a lot.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
It really does. Like that, like the show that you're talking about, like, or I mean, it's every show, but like, like when we get there, that whole process, I'm just like super anxious, just like.
What show was that? I'm sorry.
Paper Crane.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's tough, man. Like I think people might have like a misconception that I'm like an extrovert, but I'm not an extrovert at all. Like it's hard for me to do. I've said this plenty of times, but like it's hard for me to do this. For example, it's hard for me to talk to people.
Do you agonize over it or something when you're not doing it?
If I'm being honest, my body tells me like you would be more comfortable not doing it, but I do it because I know it's good for me. Like I know like doing it. It's just better. It's just better that way. Like there's no reason. Cause like every time afterwards, for example, like after we're done here, I'm gonna be like, that was awesome. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'll be like, I'm glad that I did that. But like, I sound like such a fucking silly goose. But like beforehand, I'm always like
silly
fucking.
Geese.
No,
more than one.
No, me and I'm just.
Yeah, no, but.
More than one. Thanks, bro.
It's like the Candyman, but instead of bees, it's just geese.
But I feel the same way after shows. I'm like, I've literally thrown up before shows.
Wow.
Like I literally get to that level, and then when I'm done, I'm like, that was fucking awesome.
Yeah, nothing.
That was nothing.
I mean, how are you? I mean, how are all you guys about that type of shit?
Do you wanna?
I tend to love it in the moment, and then afterwards I agonize.
Wow. After the show.
Yeah, like I just find something little that I did where I acted a little crazy, or like when we were just performing, I yelled out a lyric and my voice didn't do what I wanted it to do, and in the moment I was able to move on from it. But since then I've thought about it. It's been like just pushing a sensitive spot inside of me.
That's insane. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it happens all the time to me.
Wow.
I don't have that kind of problem with performance. Like if the band, like if I feel like the band didn't perform well, like I'll ask people like how was it, like, and I'll be like, please be honest with me, like was it bad? But if they reassure me that it was okay, then I'll just drop it, because I know that the thing is just like, why beat yourself up? Like, the best you can do is practice, right? But it's just like, if you're doing that and you still fuck up, it's like that's gonna fucking happen. Like and that's actually good advice for any new band or whatever. Like, don't fucking harp, so like don't fucking kill yourself over it.
Trying.
See, I'm the reverse of that. If I fuck something up, I'll just be like, well, it happened. It's like, what am I gonna do about it? Cry about it now?
Right.
Yeah. I used to beat myself up a whole bunch, and then like someone had to tell me, I was like, no one gives a shit.
Yeah.
But you're the only one who cares.
It's so liberating. I love that expression.
No one is looking at you except you most of the time.
Yeah.
Which,
it is true.
Show business is not a
or
great
they're
thought.
just gonna forget about it the next
day.
By the next
or
day.
they're gonna be like, you know what? It happens. Like, it's like if they're not doing it like repeatedly, no one's really even gonna remember it in the long run.
That's true. I think you were gonna say something, Sheldon, about that.
Yeah. So, so right now I'm getting ready to do a show with a band that I met at like Boba House. They're called Verdingo. They're fabulous. Check us out on the 16th at Divine Brewery in Palm Harbor for 3 hours, but I forget which hours they are. But so they're really great, and but I never played with them the first time that like they were like, hey, practice with us, we're gonna do a show. I was like, okay. And the several days like leading up to it, I was like, man, I should really like listen to this music, like, and like I get really anxious because I'm like putting it off, but I'm like, I have to like work, and I have to make sure I'm getting enough sleep, and I have to like go to school, and like just a lot of things pile up, and it's like, well, could I make time for this? And then like it gets so intense to the point where like the night before the practice, or even like the the several hours before the practice, I'm like, I should just tell them I'm not going to show up. You know, I'll just tell them, like, sorry to disappoint, guys. Like, I'm not going to be able to come. Like, I'm just not going to do it. But then, like, I'm like, just show up, like, because usually I'll want to do that because I feel like I'm not prepared. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, well, it's better to show up and be unprepared and then see what you can do there than to, like,
not show up at all.
Yeah, than to just drop it completely. And usually, I mean, like I said, I had never played with them, so the first time that I played with them, I pushed through that same thing, and, like, I got there, and everybody was just, like, so inviting. And, like, their trumpet player was great. He was like, dude, you know, like, I don't even know the lines to the songs. Like, I made up lines. Like, let's learn them together. I'm like, yes, okay, that's fabulous. And so usually, like, in preparing for a show, like, that's the cycle that I go through, is like extreme anxiety, and then I like talk to other people and I'm like, okay, this is a lot better, and then it builds back up again, and like the couple of nights before the show, it's like, this is really stressful, like, I'm just not ready, I should just tell them, like, I'm not going to do this. And then eventually it comes to the day of the show, and it's like, all right, like, we're doing it,
it's perfectly fine,
it's happening, yeah. And it's just like, I don't know, I will try to talk myself out of doing things and then just be like, see what happens if you don't do that. And then usually it goes very nicely. And, like, after shows, I'm like, God, I'm so glad I didn't, like, you know, I'm so glad I didn't just, like...
Mm-hmm.
I personally, I don't think that people realize that being a musician, it makes you do things that you wouldn't normally do.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like he said, like, this podcast, like, just things in general. Like, you know, I'm getting on stage and playing, I'm breaking down and people are talking to me. And that's so bizarre to me. Like, I don't, it's not that I don't want people to talk to me or that I hate the compliment. It's a compliment. It's nice. You know, like, it's nice to hear, but I wouldn't do that. Like, I wouldn't talk to those people if it wasn't for the fact that I was just on that stage doing that. Like, it's so bizarre. And then people think that I'm like, yeah, you're really outgoing. And I'm like, I'm really not. I'm not. Like, you just think that because you just saw me do something on this stage in front of people, which makes sense. I get it. I get why you think that. But no, I don't know. I don't like talking to people. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's very hard.
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
I will say, like, it is the one thing that's kind of cool about that whole aspect is, like, for people that don't play music, like, they're always so enamored, you know? They're like, oh, man, I can't believe you could do that. You know, like, I couldn't get up there and play in front of those people. And just like, yeah, but if it were up to me, I would do, like, Pink Floyd style and just put, like, a wall up, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Play the music, you know? It's a weird thing, like, there's the thing is, like, there's people I feel that they get into a band and the performance aspect is actually, like, a big thing for them, you know, performing in front of people. And then there's people like us, I would imagine all of us are on the same page with this, but, like, where performing in front of people is kind of scary a little bit, you know what I'm saying? Like, I have personally, I have, like, a hard time speaking in front of people. Like, in college, I had to do, like, speeches, dude. I was shaking.
Me too, yeah.
I was always so terrible at those.
I was terrible.
I took a 4-minute speech into a 15-minute speech because I was so nervous.
Really?
Wow. Yeah, it was about meditation, and I started... I meditated for 15 minutes. I started the speech because you have to do an attention getter, and mine was, like, to slam my hand on the desk, and my whole point was, like, what you just experienced is awareness. Like, this is way too deep, and I made it like 50. Yeah, it was a fucking horror show.
Well, I had to present basically I had to present for one of my college courses basically a species of crustacean or whatever, and I didn't do any of the research on it. Oops. So, like, the night before, I printed out, like, all the information about this, like, crustacean or whatever. I forget which one it was. But I just didn't have time. I think I had, like, other tests going on or something like that. And, like, I just literally read, like, the fucking packet. Yeah. Like, and Everyone was just like, this guy is bombing hard as shit, and I was just like, and the lives in the Pacific. It was just like terrible. Oh, it was so embarrassing, and I passed, but like barely. The guy just like, yeah, I can tell you didn't like fucking study for this. You didn't prepare this at all. But you did it, so whatever. And I was like, thanks, bro.
I can't give you an F.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, exactly.
I had a capstone. That's what we call it. I went to a high school where you would do the regular high school stuff, but you learned something like really random or just kind of out of the norm. So they had everything from mechanics, pharmaceutical, graphic design. I did sound engineering. By our senior year, we were supposed to have a whole album done. I think it was supposed to be like 10, 11 songs, something like that. We were supposed to have artwork. It was supposed to be an album that, technically speaking, I should be able to go out and sell.
That's a lot, by the way, in my opinion.
It is. And the thing is, in their defense, they tell you this freshman year.
Yeah.
They're like, this is going to be the end of your high school. You have 4 years. Think about that this entire time.
Also, that's a high school too. It's like,
yeah, 9th grade. I didn't think of it at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Like what the fuck are you
like
talking
whatever.
about?
3 years. It's like so far away.
Dude, I put it together the last fucking
last
semester.
day.
How'd it go?
It was freaking awful. I passed.
Oh, you didn't like the product though?
No, absolutely not. I did a really weird mix of like hip-hop stuff that I wasn't even part of in any way. I mean, some other dude rapped on it, some other dude made the beat for me, some other person mixed it, and I was like, this is my song now. Like, thank you. I did weird, like, infomercials, like, things, like
little skits?
Yeah, like little skits, and, like, there was, like, maybe 1 or 2 things that I was actually a part of where I played drums or whatever. But
for 5 seconds.
It was fucking awful. And then the day of, because you're supposed to present it, so I'm in this freaking huge auditorium. I'm like, oh my god, and the fucking thing isn't working.
Shit.
The PowerPoint presentation, the whole thing is just not working.
Oh
so
my
I was
God.
just like, okay, so I'm gonna tell you about this thing.
So I'm gonna play the drums right now.
Right now.
Everybody.
And that was it. I just had to like verbally tell people what.
You just start rapping in front of everyone. Yeah, what's up? Yeah.
It was freaking awful. I mean, all of my classmates, like people that I talked to this day, were like, "How the fuck did you fucking pass?" Like, I actually put time into my shit, and I got a lower grade than you did. I was like, I have no idea. I don't know what to tell you.
They're like, she really tried up there. She was so unprepared. Let's just give it to her, you know.
She showed up on time, you know.
Like the fact that she even tried to present it to us.
It was freaking awful, dude. It was so bad. I was like, that's so bad. Yeah.
So getting back to the topic of music, so what are some of your guys' influences? You kind of spoke a little bit about that, but I didn't get anything from Sheldon and
like
Jam.
As a band or as an individual?
I would say as an individual. Like, what inspires you as a musician?
So, soundtrack, actually. I think my my like idol when I was in middle school was Martin O'Donnell. He did the music for Halo, and because I remember like when I didn't plan to be like a musician. Like I tell this story all the time that like I was kind of put in like band accidentally, and then I was like, they were passing around instruments, and I was like, I'm just gonna wait until they put me in the art class. And then like sax came around, and I was like, I guess I'll try this one. And I remembered like in elementary school, like we played recorders, so I was like, let me just try and do the same thing with my hands. And so I did that, and like kind of like played a scale, and everyone was like, what the hell, like how did you do that? I was like, I don't know. But so then like in middle school, like the first like things that I learned to play were like Lord of the Rings theme music, like Pirates of the Caribbean, like Star Wars. And then like at some point like we had this beginning book that was like it was just like how to read sheet music, basically. It was called Essential Elements, and it came with a CD for Finale Notepad.
Classic.
Oh my god. And so I wrote an arrangement for the Truth and Reconciliation suite from Halo and like tried to have the band do it, and it like didn't really take off, but like ever since then that's been like what kind of drives me. Like if I'm thinking about something, I'm kind of thinking about it almost as though it's soundtrack for like a situation or something. Like I'll write melodies that don't necessarily like showcase a lot of proficiency. You know what I mean? Like I don't do crazy stuff with my fingers, partially because like I never got myself to that point, but also because like I don't think you need to do like a wall of sound to like get to people to like make them cry. You know what I mean?
No.
Yeah. So like soundtrack like just deeply affected me. So like I try to affect people in the same way.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I feel like that's probably really uncommon. I would say like most people would be like, you know, John Coltrane or
Yeah.
like going to like jazz or like famous. That's
And I love that stuff now. Like, but when I was like in my senior year doing like, I played Barry sax originally, and like so I was doing like this piece called like Russian Sailor's Dance. And afterwards the guy was like, so what saxophone players do you listen to? And I was like, I don't listen to any saxophone players. Like I didn't listen to saxophone players until I was in a band with Jam, and like I started listening to Wayne Shorter, and so I was like, fuck yeah, Wayne
got
Shorter's
to see him live.
awesome. Yeah.
With
and
Herbie.
that made me cry. Wayne Shorter made me cry.
Yep.
Yeah.
Same here.
That's cool. I think that's actually like I think that makes you more unique, like as a sax player, because if let's say like you were to grab inspiration from like something that's more popular, there's a lot of people that grab inspiration from that. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So like grabbing inspiration from something that's really uncommon, like that actually makes you very unique in that sense.
Thanks.
So that's cool.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. How about you, Jam?
Well, so right now, Erykah Badu,
Yeah.
Michael Hurley is a folk player, Sid Barrett, and I was thinking when he was talking, like really all those people, I like the live sound that they have, where they embrace the mistakes they have.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I like folk so much, like early folk and early psychedelic rock, because it's so messy sounding, and early funk too, where just you could tell they're like surrounded by one microphone or just recording live rather than multi-tracking. That capturing that energy of live music is so important to me. I love that. So those are specific ones that I'm looking up to right now.
That's it's funny that you say that, because like I think and I just had this conversation with another group not too long ago, but like I feel like everyone that goes into a recording studio is trying to capture the essence of what they do live.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh, you've seen that recently?
No, I think that's what people do.
Oh.
Like that's what we do, right? You would agree with that, right?
Yeah.
Like we
Definitely.
try to when you watch us perform live, like I try, like when we record, we try and emulate that as much as possible. It's just really hard to do that, right? Because like you have to have, you know, under 6 decibels or negative 6 decibels. You know, that type of thing where it's like everything's kind of compressed.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But live, like you're hearing everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The idea would be to have no one say, "Oh, I wouldn't expect you guys to sound like that live," based off your recordings, right?
Yeah.
And that's happened to us a lot, where people, you know, they took the time to listen to us on spot, whatever it is, right? And then they come to a live show and they're like blown away. They're like, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
You know, and that sucks, because I want the recordings to do that too, but it's difficult, man.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that I can't. I mean, Pink Floyd comes to mind, where they were able to capture that like really well, where you see them live and you're like, you get it.
That's why I mentioned Sid Barrett, who was with Pink Floyd in the beginning.
Yeah.
His solo stuff is amazing to me. I know his lyricism's a little crazy, but it's just I could tell you just set up a microphone and first take like did some songs, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Or take 3, you know.
Dude, I love that early Pink Floyd stuff. Is fucking amazing. Like
Mhm.
honestly, like when I like that was a big first influence for me. Was like that, like Pink Floyd in general, but like that early stuff, like that pop shit. Like I love that stuff, man. Like
Yeah.
that stuff is. I mean, I don't know. I wonder how many Pink Floyd fans are into that, but yeah, it was just like that was so cool. Like that's kind of like the sound that I kind of wanted to do with House of I, you know, like that kind of like trippy fucking like psyche pop type of shit.
And then
you
we
know,
fucked it all up.
no.
Parliament Funkadelic too. They have like the craziest, coolest shit it created early on in the late 60s and 70s. And they're like 13-minute jams feel like 4-minute jams if you're doing your thing. I don't know how they did that. I think it's the live sound, but I'm not bored when I'm listening to a 14-minute song with them.
And you think you would be.
Yeah.
You know.
It is weird to think that when I listen to like an old recording or something, like there's you can tell like that the new stuff's like the quality sounds maybe crisper, you could maybe say, like just because it's modern or whatever, but there is something to like the warmth of like the old stuff. Like it just I don't know, like for example like Pink Floyd's drums. That shit sounds like I feel like that is the best drum sound I could ever hear in
Do you
my
mean
life.
like Dark Side of the Moon? Or do you
Yeah, I would say dark. I mean, the majority of like their stuff, I would say, like has a really good drum sound. Like, but like, yeah, you could say Dark Side of the Moon. Like specific, like those fucking drums sound so good to me.
You see, like I think Pixies are the best sounding drums.
See, I would say like for me, Pixies sounds like
Or like Nevermind.
80s mixed in with indie rock. Because it was like that loud fucking like, or like the big drums with like a bunch of reverb. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
And it's like the other thing too is like they only really did that for that.
Those two. Oh, another
yeah,
one.
Yeah, that one album, and then they kind of.
I think that's a great sound because it's not the cheesy like Rat Poison, Aerosmith. Like it's not that. It's like way better than that.
Yeah.
And I think that for most songs, if you control the volume on those things, like it could work for so many things. And then again, like Nevermind, that album is just.
That's a good point.
For drumming, like I'm like, oh my god, make me sound like that, and I'm like.
I was just waiting for you to do it. It's fine. There it is.
I mean, going back to what you were saying about like, yeah, trying to get like on a recording what it is like live, like my goal, because I mean we're pretty still early stages, like my goal would be something like very theatrical.
Yeah.
Like that's, but I mean also like I tend to write something where I'm like, okay, this is like how would I want everybody to perform this? What would I want this to look like? I told Sheldon, I was like, I'm pretty visual when I'm like doing this stuff, which like I never want it to seem like, oh, that's the only thing I'm focusing on, because it's certainly like in the side view mirror, but like it is something when I'm just doing my part, like if I'm writing the lyrics, because I for the most part write the majority of the lyrics. I mean, you know, I sing it, so nobody else is really gonna do it for me.
Yeah.
Oops, shit. But yeah, I think about that stuff a lot, and so it's all very theatrical to me. Like I would want I always said that if we ever got to a point where I could have as much money as I wanted to just make a show, I would have like a huge facade of like houses, like a street block or something with lights, and like, you know how like shows will build up and they'll have like crazy light stuff at the beginning to build up to this like band coming on.
Yeah.
It would do that. There would be like a pre-recorded track where it's like a build up, and then it would all go dark, the lights to the house would come up, and then we would just like walk on from like the side, and then a garage door would open, and that would be the stage. So like stupid shit like that, I'm like, that would be what I would want. And that's like, so when they're like, what is your sound? I'm like, this stage setup.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's like when we saw Roger Waters. That was wild.
Oh, they're all about that shit.
That was wild.
They're
like
all
that
about
was
that.
like it sounded exactly like I've heard on the recordings, but it looked bad.
When I remember when we started, it was me, Juliana, and Jacob, and like they're two skinny white guys. And so I was like, well, no one's gonna listen to us, because if we get up there and start playing like covers of like, you know, 2000s punk covers, like no one's gonna listen, because they're like, okay, a bunch of three dudes, and also now I have two other like skinny white dudes behind me. It's like, what are we gonna do to like make people pay attention? And so like I always tell them I'm gonna put them in wigs, but also like I kind of will. I Sheldon will.
I embrace it.
One, but
Yeah. No, no one really needs a wig. It's yeah. I think
both of you guys have. All you guys have fucking long hair. I'm so jealous.
It's true, we do, don't we?
I'm very worried. It's like receding now.
Sons of bitches.
You gotta embrace it while you have it. My dad's been telling me since I was young that I'm gonna go bald soon, so.
I don't think so.
Yeah, you gotta enjoy it.
I mean, he would beg to differ.
So here's what you have to do. This is my goal. I'm just gonna like keep the trimmings from every time I get it cut shorter. And then eventually I'll just make a wig that looks like this hair so I can just wear it out. And then I'll just have this hair underneath. Yeah.
Smart.
Exactly.
All the haircuts you've wasted.
I never had long hair though. My hair is too poofy. I have like fucking, I don't even, I have nappy hair is what I have. Like when I had it long, it just curled up. It never.
Well, that's cool though.
Yeah, but I was never, like, I couldn't grow it out to that length, ever.
Because it was just all curl.
It would just go like that. It would never go down.
He had like a helmet on his head is the best way I could put it.
If I cut this short, I end up looking like Doris Day.
Really?
So there's really no options. I have to leave it this length.
So I wonder what you guys think about this. What are your opinions on social media and technology and how that affects music now?
Oh God.
Well, they're gonna cancel us.
Oh yes, I can't wait. I can't wait to go the way of Power Bottom.
Oh God.
Well, it's easy to avoid that.
Yes. No. I know.
Keep your hands to yourselves, ladies.
Yes. Oh my God.
Can I start this one?
Yeah, go for it.
I wish social media wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
I'm of that opinion. I get more anxiety from social media than any other thing with music right now. I'm trying to do my solo thing and with them, and just the idea of posting every week about myself gives me this raging anxiety and like depression even. Yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk for days about that because like I started doing the podcast for that reason. Because instead of just posting things on social media, like I can sit down with you guys, for example, and have a conversation and then post that instead and not feel like no one gives a shit about what I have to say. So let me post a conversation that might, people might actually like enjoy listening to. So I'm right there with you. Like I don't post, like if you look at my page, I don't post anything about my private life. I think more recently I've kind of tried to be more like thanks for helping out and stuff, and if I need something for like the band or something I'll ask, but like generally speaking, like I don't like posting about myself. Like it's just weird. It's just fucking weird.
Yeah, it's like it's an ego thing, I think. That's how I've felt about it. And with Instagram, I try to just take pictures of other people or like a scene that I saw that I thought was cool. Because when it's in front of me, I just got like a million things I'm complaining about.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's a tough thing, man. Especially like I think the unfortunate thing is like nowadays you have to be comfortable with kind of posting all the time in order to have some sort of following, which it sucks to think that the people that end up following you are people that are into that type of stuff. Do you get what I'm saying? Like besides the music, they enjoy the fact that you're constantly posting
spamming them
stuff.
Yeah, I guess there are people like that. I think from like a perspective of someone who maybe isn't like going out to shows pretty frequently, it's like if you know this local band and you're gonna follow them on Instagram, you can't necessarily be out there like seeing them like all the time. You may be able to like listen to their stuff on Bandcamp or Spotify or whatever, but like any other sort of like information from them is like that's their source of it. So I think it's like obviously there are like pros and cons to anything. Certainly there are a lot of cons to social media, just like especially like the more followers you get, the worse it gets. But it's also pretty beneficial too, I think, and just like now it's like the equivalent of like business cards. Like you meet someone and you're not like, oh, what's your phone number? It's like, well, you can follow me on Instagram, and you can follow us on Instagram at Sorry Barb. Yeah. So yeah, it's beneficial in that because it's very much like it's totally networking. It is social networking, but it's also for like genuine interaction. It's like not a good thing.
Well, it's it's a great tool for business.
Yeah.
But the problem is that business is now being molded into your personal life. Like, especially when you're an artist. Like, people want to know more about you, and they want to know what, you know, your opinions on things. They want to know what you're eating. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, I guess that, I feel like that's more if you have, like, a lot of people following you, where it's, like, to that level, like, when you, like, I guess cross over into, like, mainstream anything, that's when people are, like, really crazy, like, what is he doing? But before that, they're just sort of like, okay, a lot of people will follow early on, just be like, where is this gonna go? Because like, also a lot of it is people want the trophy of, like, I followed them since this time. And that's great because everybody needs that. So I don't know which point I'm trying to make exactly, but
I agree with you, but I also think that a lot of people that have gotten famous from social media, like, they had to they had to start somewhere, right? So they just kept doing it. Like, they just kept posting constantly about themselves, and, you know,
I mean, I guess
being braggadocious or whatever.
Yeah, it depends on, like, because I feel like there's a way to do it without posting about yourself. I mean, we're not great at posting at all, but sorry, but it's also like we don't post about anything personal at all either. I would joke that we were, like, going through a beige era because our apartment just had beige walls, and we would always practice, so we would, like, take a video or take a picture, and it was just that. So if you scroll through, it's just like a wall of beige. And so, but it's nothing, like, we're never posting any sort of, like, personal opinions, and I guess it's different if you're more like of a solo act or you're just more involved in that. I don't know. It's weird for social media with music anyway, because it, like, almost has nothing to do with unless you're posting a song or a snippet of a song and saying, hey, go check out this album, go check out this single. It seems like it has nothing to do with it.
Well, yeah, so for example, like, Instagram. I love Instagram. I think it's great. But, like, it took me a minute to get used to the fact that people enjoy seeing a photo of us performing with dialogue underneath saying our upcoming shows are this, and that. But, like, me personally, do I give a shit to fucking see that about an artist I like? No.
Right.
I just want to know when the fuck you're playing and
when's the next album.
But we're not, like, that's another thing, like, you kind of have to realize is that we're not the consumers that we're trying to market to.
It's all marketing.
I wonder too, like, how much of it is, like, is this cool for another musician to see, or is this cool for the public? Because when Jordan Esker posts about his recording process, super interesting for me. I love to see that. But then I wonder, like, if I was to do the same thing, would I be just targeting those types of friends who are musicians as well? Because I don't feel like the public would receive that in such a way a musician would, you know?
Actually, I feel like this is a good point for me to jump in, because I feel like specifically that aspect, if you part of being like somebody that people want to, like, this is so hard. Hold on.
Take your time.
Okay.
We'll cut it out. Don't worry.
So I think that specifically targeting other musicians is one of the reasons that people like particular musicians on social media, because, like, people like Jacob Collier and Adam Neely, I like them not necessarily because of their music, although their music is fabulous, but I really get a lot of inspiration from them. Like, as a musician, I'm like, I don't know them, they're not, like, my friends, but I am, like, a musician, or, like, I want to be a musician. Like, and if you have the opportunity to, like, target musicians or people who want to be musicians, like, I find that could be very rewarding. Even if, like, the general public wouldn't take interest in it, you could pick, like, you could reach, like,
I'll pick your audience in a way.
You can reach particular people who will have who you will have, like, such a profound effect on, because it's like, yeah, you started my musical career, as opposed to, like, I like to listen to you in Starbucks or something like that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think, I don't know if this is the same, like, I know that our music is music for musicians and artists. I don't think our music is for, like, the general population or the general public or whatever. Like,
yeah,
I feel like most people would be like, oh, that sounds sad, or that's, like, too weird or something. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's not pop music per se. So it's like, I understand that. I get that. But, like, social media, you still have to use it to, like, I don't know.
Like, in order to get people to go to your shows, you have to accumulate a following, even if that's not, like, your ideal image of yourself as a band.
Yeah. Yeah. I think in the shittiest part is that, in my opinion, it's like, do I, like, as a musician, if you listen to our stuff, I think you would probably be like, it's not that crazy, it's not that wild, right? But, like, to the fucking layman person or whatever that listens to fucking, you know, Taylor Swift or something, they're just like, oh, what the fuck is this? You know what I'm saying? Like,
oh, see, I thought your demo was Swifties.
Nifty Swifties.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I don't know. It's I'm not gonna change the style of music we write or whatever. But it's, I don't know. It's just it's a weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing.
I think certain types of, like, music and, like, what bands are necessarily, or even just, like, solo artists are trying to get across, like, works better with social media than others. So, like, someone who's, like, doing, like, a solo career on YouTube and trying to, like, get, you know, 12-year-olds involved and saying, like, hey, go buy my new single, that works much better for them than someone like, you know, a local musician who's going out to do shows, you know, trying to do that as well as, like, say, hey, we're, you know, on Instagram. I feel like sometimes people will follow, like, bands and they'll just be like, they'll just post about stuff while they're on tour or whatever. It's like, we're doing this show and it'll be nothing personal whatsoever. It may not even be a picture of them. It'll be like a poster of the show. And it's almost just like letting them know, yeah, we're still doing stuff. We haven't gone anywhere. Just because we're not, like, immediately in your area or, like, promoting something directly, we're still working. Where we haven't disappeared.
You know what I actually, like, the one thing that I do actually appreciate that bands or artists or whatever post is when they're posting, like, artwork. Like, if a band posts artwork, I'm like, oh, I like that. You know, like, I want to see more of that. Because, like, that's cool. Or, like a really artistic photo, you know what I'm saying? Like, not just, like, one that comes from, like, a phone, but, like, you know, they got, like, a photographer to take, like, a really, like, fucking dope photo. Like, I like that type of shit. That's cool. But that's like, that's in the realm of, in my opinion, the realm of art. It's not just, like, selfie, you know what I'm saying? It's not that. So it's like, I don't know.
I will say that, going on what Sheldon said, the inspiration and inspiring maybe someone that wasn't gonna be a musician but then saw your video and becomes a musician. When I saw y'all's video with the Liquid Pennies, and when I saw the video with the Tampa Supergroup and with Jordan Esker's new EP, all those things collectively have been influencing me lately, and I'm sure it's been for other musicians that have seen that through Instagram. Just seeing somebody that I know, who I know is just a regular ass person, making music and doing what they want to do. That's definitely a positive side of being a musician with Instagram.
That's cool. Yeah, that's a great point, honestly. That's really fucking neat. And that makes me feel a lot better.
No, it's good. I'm glad y'all are doing stuff.
That's cool, man. Thank you. That's really cool. Okay, so back to you guys. So where do you think music is heading?
In general?
I mean in general. Not in Tampa.
Wow.
I think Tampa's growing, but I mean in general. And it doesn't have to be specific to, like, a genre. It doesn't have to be, like, hip-hop. But just in general, like, where are we going with music now?
Well, I think pop music is gonna fade away for a little bit, because at this point there's nothing good coming in. Like, it's all, like, there's no... I saw a video recently where they were, like, analyzing several songs, you know, like Ariana Grande stuff and, like, all that. And they said there's no melody here. It's just, like, breathing on a track. There's nothing here. So it's gonna, like, there will always be people who like that stuff, because pop music right now is just selling an image. I mean, it always has, but there's nothing to go along with it right now. So I think that's gonna fade away, and especially with the way the world is going right now, I feel like more of, like, you know, indie stuff is gonna come out again. There's gonna be another resurgence. What form that takes, I have no fucking clue. Probably gay. It'll probably be gay.
Yeah. I think actually that is kind of how, like, that's kind of what I would see as well. Like in order to be big and famous, you have to accrue like a following, even if like that includes like posting a selfie all the time or whatever. But on the other hand, that goal may not be the one that you want to strive for. Like it may not be what is like that idea that like one person is going to be the star of like everybody's show. To me, that kind of like doesn't seem either like feasible or like relevant to me. Like I feel like what's more relevant is if you can find like a subculture or a niche or like a particular local group, or a kind of person that social media can allow you to, for instance, connect with gay people anywhere. Mm-hmm. Like you could post. Like the reason Power Bottom for me like came up was because like I loved them because like I'm gay. I'd never seen like a gay band before, and it like truly like if social media can allow you to connect with people from all over the world who are not the majority of people, but who will appreciate what you do, like I think that's ultimately more valuable than like rising like to the top. Like I think you can, I even think it's possible to I don't know, I wonder about like being able to make money doing that. Mm-hmm. But I think if you have devoted people within that subgroup, like you can get people who like have the money to help fund you, or like a record label might see like, oh, this particular person like touches this group, and they might want to like acquire you in some way or another, which, you know, if money is what you want, then you know that's kind of your option in the first place. That's kind of how the music industry is. So
would you feel comfortable with them kind of, I guess, using that platform of being gay towards like marketing?
I mean, it's debatable. Like the idea of marketing in general is something that I think about as like is this a good thing or a bad thing? Like on the one hand, somebody is trying to get me to purchase something. Somebody's trying to get me to exchange my time, resources, money for like something that they produce. And on the other hand, like I, as like a consumer in this particular society, I'm like looking for people to attach to and identify with. And like there's marketing for money, and there's like social marketing, which like I definitely think it's a blurry line. I think it's something that just has always been like problematic for people to deal with. Like, are you trying to sell me something, or are you trying to relate to me? Can it be both?
Yeah.
Like, I work at Starbucks. I get paid to be nice to people all the time, but that doesn't mean I don't actually really enjoy being nice to the people. Like, I meet so many like interesting, just so many interesting customers, but they're like also customers. So I have to like think, well, I'm working for Starbucks, and you think that as like a band working for a record label or something, you know, it may or may not be exactly how you want to represent yourself. You don't want to represent yourself as like a member of a label, but it enables you to do something that you enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think with the gay thing too, it is like you can tell when it's not genuine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's like super easy, like especially in like the internet age where just like everything is just like there. It's like you can tell when something is being manufactured for you.
Yeah.
As opposed to like someone just like putting it on. Like there's a huge explosion of like drag performers right now because of RuPaul's Drag Race, and you can tell which ones are like catching people's attention because they're just being generally who they are. It almost like seems like they're not even in drag, but then there's others where it's like, okay, they just did this show to like be famous or get money or something, you know.
Yeah, that's I definitely have a hard time with that, especially with like Hollywood, where like there's the two sides of it, where you can say in Hollywood, like, it's a good thing, right, that people are like more actors are getting like these type of roles and stuff like that. I think that's awesome. But then there's also like this weird thing where it's like, but are you only doing it because it's the kind of like in thing to do right now?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, that's fucked up.
But
it should
it's
just
true.
be that way anyway.
And it is fucked up, but also it's like there's this flip side of, okay, but it's also something that's never been shown before. Like the representation is certainly not there, so it's almost like there's a lot of, and I don't want to say it's good or everybody should just accept it, but it's like there is a lot of years, generally speaking, where you kind of take a lot of like subpar shit to eventually get something where like as a community you're like, yeah, this is good representation, like this is, and you know, it becomes like a normal thing because like now the floodgates are just being opened.
So you're gonna get everything.
You're gonna get everything,
and that's my point. Is like for example, what it comes off as is like you had a prejudice before, now you don't because it's in. That like it for me, for example, is like, no, like, you know, I'm cool with everybody. I don't give a shit. You know, I don't care what color you are. I don't care like your political views or whatever. I don't give a fuck. Like as long as you're a nice person, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, but we can choose to see that as somebody is just trying to like, and corporations wise, I totally see viewing it this way.
It's a great,
you know,
Gillette,
just
for example.
or every fucking company in June. So it's like, you know, you could like, that's a totally different thing. But like generally speaking, like maybe like a public figure who is like maybe now starting to say stuff about it. It's like we can see it as like, well, you never were there beforehand, or you can choose to see it as like, well, this person is growing now that it's like had a visibility that it never had before. Let's just give them benefit of the doubt.
Like you do to some point have to accept the fact that when it becomes open, that more people are going to come forward. Like it is generally just kind of how it works, you know. I mean, back in the day where it was so, it was seen like such a bad thing that of course people were, you know, Jesus Christ.
Oh no, my bad.
See, he kept warning me about the mic falling in my lap, but the tables have turned.
Yeah, you know, back then where it was seen like, I mean, just imagine. I mean, you could literally be killed, right? Like, that's pretty heavy. So, but I also think the whole like June thing where everyone decides to chant. And I'm like,
yeah.
What were you doing beforehand that helps this cause? You know, for you to change your little cover photo or whatever it is, you know, on Facebook, you know. So
I think maybe what's more telling than like what corporations choose to do is the fact that is profitable for some reason, like, which could suggest like that people, like the minds of people are like changing, like rather than viewing it as the thing, maybe like it helps to look at it as like a reflection of like what's going on amongst people.
Yeah, the community itself, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, it's not good, but we, you know, you sort of just like say, okay, well, you know, it's getting it out to people who might otherwise not, you know, like Beth from Iowa is like never gonna come across like a gay person just on the street like out, but she sees like a Gillette commercial and she's like, oh, okay, like I could like that could be okay, you know.
Yeah, and just the fact that it exists like suggests that like, you know, people are a little bit more okay with it than they were before. Like little by little, like it's like maybe like a fad now, but eventually it'll just kind of like naturalize into like you know, the shittiness that is advertising. But
I think that it's just, it kind of like, because I was listening to Flea's book.
I got the audio.
Maybe don't be so tall, then. Yeah,
you know, there's surgeries for that now.
Have you tried cutting it off at the knees?
I got the audiobook for Flea's new book.
Acid for the children.
He goes like, you know, I always thought hippies were full of shit. And I just laughed. I was like, that's so funny, because it kind of went through the same transition where it was like, you know, it was something so out of the norm, and then eventually you could buy their entire outfits at like your biggest mall, and like that's cool now. And it's like when did the change happen? You know what I mean? Where it was like
real gradual.
When I think too, if we're like bringing it back to music, it's like that's always, I feel like, going to be the forefront of like any sort of like big change, because anybody who's like writing about anything too, especially in the time we're in right now, shit like that is gonna seep in, even if it's not like direct. And with me, it is pretty direct. It all, you're gonna like be able to see, like, you can look at like something that was done in the 90s where you're like, this was such a progressive like TV show, and you look back and you're like, oh my god, this is like so fucked up. They couldn't say this, they couldn't say that, like that's bad. Like, but so I forgot what I was saying, but
I know I get what you're saying, like where it's just like you have to, those things are gonna happen, and it kind of moves things forward. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny, Friends, The Office. The Office couldn't come out today. Holy hell!
Really?
Mm-hmm.
If The Office came out today, oof,
that first season,
rough.
That first season's rough.
The first episode. The pilot.
Just straight racist.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
I haven't watched it in so long.
Yeah, if you start from the beginning.
You said you had something.
Retroactively cancel it.
I think the question you asked is interesting, and I think music will continue to be derivative. It will continue to have escape artists who use their music and their lyrics to help people escape from climate change and all the fucked up shit. And then we'll have musicians who like tell you straight up what's going on, and they won't be liked, but they'll be here. And I think what's interesting about it is, like, as these problems continue, I wonder if there's going to be more escape artists rather than real, like how the lyricism is going to change in the future as like the boiling point comes.
I don't know, man, because I think the music is such a weird thing, because I think at this point now we're getting into a realm where I feel like music is starting to repeat itself, and not in a bad way. Like, I like a lot of the stuff that sounds like, like the 60s or whatever that people are doing. But it's hard now, it's hard pressed to find new genres, or even when an artist does, like, let's say, like, I'll use Radiohead as an example, just because I always feel like they're pretty good about doing something that sounds different from, like, the previous work that they did. But if you look at their music, it's not anything crazy different than, like, something that's been done already. Do you get what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, fuck, I forgot my point was basically like, with music, I feel like it's just recycling through, and I think that's kind of the same when it comes to like ideas and what's going on. I think the honest truth is that the only way that it would be a huge difference is if like something drastic happens where like everything becomes a utopia, or we go into like a dystopia.
The best music comes with dystopias, though.
But do you get what I'm saying, though? Because you say that we think we're in one.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, man. We're in it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's like a few approach. Like as he stated, there's like people who are gonna like do escape. Just try and like something that's totally not about that at all. And then there will be others who it's like, this is what's happening and why aren't you fucking listening, like Nina Simone. That's like kind of what I think of. She was like, as it got more intense with like the civil rights movement, she was like in your face about it. And that was her. People will be like that, and then there will be others where it's like, well, I'm going to talk about it, but also I'm gonna try to have fun, it's like this, you just sort of like slide it under the table with a wink. It's like it's happening.
Well, okay, so then to that point, right, you could say that in the 60s, right, when they were going through that civil rights movement, like people were writing about that at that time as well. So I'm saying, like, in that sense, like, that's still similar in the sense of like we're fighting for equality. But that's what I'm saying, like, it won't really, like, that type of thing won't change until, like, it's gotten to the point where there's nothing wrong anymore, or things are so, like... Oh, like... You get what I'm saying?
What are songs going to be about when everything is perfect?
Exactly. Like...
Oh, so actually...
I think I was more on the side of, like, things... As far as how easy entertainment is, and just, like, surviving on this low paycheck that we get, and, like, dealing with it, because it... it's so readily available. I think we're at like that utopia, you know, like perceived utopia, even though dystopia is like at the horizon.
Imminent, yeah.
Yeah, imminent. It seems imminent at least. So, I think this is the music that's played at Utopia.
So this is why music is so easy to do.
Right,
Quote,
yeah.
unquote, you know.
That too. Like DAWs are available and
Right.
interfaces. We can make music for $300, you know, and a basement.
I can see that.
I think I can agree. I think I kind of agree with that, but there's still a lot of. I mean, obviously, like I think kind of, this is kind of more now leaning towards like what I thought your argument was, where like, you know, look who's in office right now. You get what I'm saying? Like.
It's cool.
But it's like, you know, things aren't, you know, like that, like the fact that even happened, you could say like that's, you know, that's a cause for concern. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you could say, yeah, things are in my opinion, I think things are going great in like my life, for example. Like I can't really complain about too much besides whatever personal family stuff, but like generally speaking, I have a house, you know, like I'm alive, I fucking have friends, family that I love, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not starving, or I'm not, you know, like I'm not forced into some situation, you know, do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, there are things that we can, you know, take a step back and be like, I want change here, but it's not like, it's not like extreme perfect, and it's also not extreme terrible. Like, and I would say extreme terrible would be like nuclear war. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
0 to 100.
But that's what I'm saying, though, and that's kind of like my point. I know it's kind of like very, I wouldn't say vague, but very specific.
Yeah. Personally, I think that's probably never going to happen because of just perspective, right? Like I personally like sad music. Like I like melancholy. I like that kind of stuff, right? So if you're telling me that we're gonna freaking blast like Justin Bieber 24/7, I'm probably just gonna kill myself. So you know, like it's just that kind of balance where as long as people like me exist, which I don't think it's ever gonna go away, people are just never gonna be generally 100% okay with entertainment. You know what I mean? Like people are always gonna be like, well, what more can we do? And that's my only glimmer of hope. Keep being oppressed, people.
Well, it'll never go away.
Actually, I mean, like on that topic, I was thinking about it, like as, like for instance, using gay subculture as like a thing. Like it's an identifiable subculture because like people from the outside will be like, you're different because you're a man who likes men, and then gay people find each other and establish their own like kind of, you know, walled off community. And then as that wall like kind of breaks down, and sexuality becomes less of a fact, I feel like, or less of a factor in developing relationships with people on the outside, then like gay culture kind of emulsifies into the whole thing, and then what? Like
then what? Exactly.
Then do you still have like gay music? It doesn't.
Or is it just music at that point, right?
Exactly. Does it kind of all, you know? And that's the like utopian like entropy like thing. It'd be
an interesting point to get to.
I mean,
but I believe eventually it'll get to that point. Like we're at least with gay like cultures, that it'll be like that's just like anything else. Move on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think like in my head, the way that I treat the world is that way. Does that make sense? Like I treat things like it's normal,
right?
Unless presented otherwise,
right?
You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like I don't, again, like going back, I don't have any prejudice towards someone unless they do something to me,
right?
You know?
Yeah.
Well, even if you don't, like those people will also self-identify themselves as like different from you. You may not look at them and be like, oh, you're like a different like class of human being than I am, but they might look at you and be like, well, I'm different than you, but I'm like this other person.
Well, everyone's different though, right?
It's true, right? But like you may not be the one putting up the wall. That doesn't mean that the wall isn't there.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not always like a wall. It's kind of like a soft like if you like a beads hanging from the hello.
Yeah.
But
someone will place you somewhere. Basically, like even if you're not placing yourself there, it's
exactly.
Like,
even if you're not placing someone somewhere, they might place themselves in a different place. And I kind of wonder that, like, if the entropy situation happens, that you wouldn't still have like little nucleations where people like suddenly somebody's like, I have a different idea, and then
that's it.
You know, and then it webs out again, and you have this like that same like subculture forming like.
Human wise, I don't think it'll ever stop. That's the thing. To be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll ever stop. There's always going to be something that's going to divide. Even if like two-party system goes away, the whole night, there's going to be something else that's going to make humans argue about something. I can't even think of what that is.
You just need to do popular vote is what we need to do. Just take out the fucking president spot, bro.
I mean, I'm just saying people will find something else to argue about.
We should overthrow.
Let's just start.
Let's go now.
Let's just revolt right now. No? Alright.
Well, I would say we can kind of end it on this.
On overthrowing the government next Tuesday.
The time is now, people.
You heard it here first.
Sorry, Barb.
And Twitter if you want.
I'm not I guess I have here ASMR.
So, okay. Do you guys know about ASMR?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So, do you like enjoy it?
I do.
I don't have an opinion on it, to be honest.
Okay.
I enjoy it.
Okay. Do you experience the sensation in real life as opposed to just like listening
Like
to
the tingly
recordings?
sensation in the back of my head when there's nothing to. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I've been having this experience for like I noticed that I would like this would happen all the time, but I was sitting in my lecture hall at physics lecture, and I was like just relaxing, and I realized like the guy behind me was like shaking his leg, and you could.
Right.
Well, hold on. Like one of those type deals. and so. And anyway, so he was like doing that, and I was like, I stopped like listening to the lecture. I was like, please don't stop. Like, please don't stop shaking your leg. And then he did, and I was like, oh fuck. And I was like, oh my god.
Audibly say that, like.
No, but it was very. It was more muted. It was more like. It was just like a slight adjustment. Like, okay, well that's over. And then the guy in front of me, was wearing like a cross on like a chain around his neck, and he started. I think he put the cross in his mouth and started going like this, so that the cross was like
on the chain,
gritting on the chain. Yeah.
Right.
And so I was kind of like leaning into my seat, and I started like hearing this sound from over here, and I was like, "Oh, that's so beautiful." I was like, just like. It was like relaxing. It was like I think other people in the room I could tell like started like looking around like they heard it and were like it made them uncomfortable, which I think is the case for a lot of people with ASMR. Like things that are very pleasant to some people are extremely irritating to others.
Yeah.
Like mouth sounds especially is a big one, or like or like repetitive tapping or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I
then
like finger flippers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Actually, now that you say it, I think I'd be one of those people that. Well, I think that what it would be is like it would distract me because I'm easily like distracted.
Yeah.
So like if I'm in a lecture, I'd be like I can't focus on what the person's saying because I'm hearing it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, like sometimes I listen to ASMR when I sleep, but certain things are like distracting, and it's like, oh, it's so difficult to sleep, but if somebody like is doing it just right, it's like, oh, this is really relaxing, it's helping the situation. And this was definitely like one of those where like other people were like, what is going on? Like somebody turned around, and the guy stopped because he saw somebody turn around.
Yeah, he's like, oh.
And I was like, ugh. And then he started scratching his head, and I was like, yeah. So he had like just gotten a haircut too, so it was like very short and
frizzy.
Yeah.
The headphone thing gets me though, because there's like something about like I've tried to listen to it like in the car
Oh,
on
yeah,
the way
it's
to
not-
work
it's
to
not
get
the same.
myself,
It's not the
you know,
same.
in like a nice, like I'm gonna be happy today, right? ASMR. I'm like, all right, no, it's got to be in headphones and it's got to be stereo. It's got, dude, like there's just something weird about a sound going from here to here.
Yeah.
It's just like whoa.
For some
I
of the
could-
roads, you know how roads
Yeah.
Oh,
roads
the,
have that,
like,
I
tremolo.
fucking
Yeah.
love that
I can
so
see like
much.
that, but there's like notes to it, so like there I can be like, oh yeah.
No,
that
just
sounds
sounds,
sexy.
dude. Just sounds.
Yeah.
I just watched one where someone was drawing something, right? So the pen
Yeah,
was scratching on the
yeah,
paper. I
yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
It
My
just,
girlfriend Jessie likes foam, where
oh, when it squish, yeah.
she'll be watching that for 15 minutes and it just drives me up the wall.
She doesn't even use headphones. She just watches it on her phone.
Yeah, on her
Oh,
phone.
no.
Which to me is so strange. Like I can like the sensation of squishing the thing I can appreciate from afar, but like
I have to.
mono, like just on the phone,
Yeah.
I don't know.
It works.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, it's a weird
hilarious.
thing. I brought it up to people at work, and they look at me like I'm crazy. Like, so you want someone just breathing in your ear?
Yes,
and I was
yes,
like,
that's exactly what I want.
I'm like, yes, but it's more than that though. Like you're not understanding. Like you feel like you're being touched. Like I feel like someone is like running a nail, just rubbing a nail through the back of my head right here. That's not happening. I'm in my car. I'm alone.
Yeah.
Okay, like
I'm
that's-
alone.
I'm alone. That's not happening at all, and it just feels really weird. I don't know. I love that shit, dude.
I really want the Cosmo article. 10 ASMR triggers to get him off.
Yeah.
Write it.
You don't have to see it.
No, that's it's just really funny. People should talk about it more because they feel like it's weird, and it's really not that weird.
I like it
It's
as
just an
background
audible
noise.
thing. It's just
I
some
like
people.
just like not like anybody speaking, but I will listen to it like on my computer if I don't want to listen to music or anything. I'll just use it as background noise while I'm doing something else.
I like rain. Rain.
Yeah.
Oh, rain's very
I-
nice.
Like,
Yeah.
oh
Is
my
that
God.
under the same category as, I was just about to ask that, like ocean sounds and
Yeah.
rain?
Yeah, I would say
White
so.
noise.
I
You
would
mean
say
is that
no.
ASMR?
No.
Yeah, no.
No.
I think like you can maybe
It's just ambience.
you can
Yeah,
trigger
exactly.
it, but yeah, ASMR is the specific like the tingling sensation.
Yeah.
Where like
But I'll use both for like the same thing. 'Cause
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think I have the sensation. I don't recall ever feeling it. But like I do like specific sounds. Like I've always liked the sound of like walking down cobble or something. Like
Mhm.
it always like seems like it has
Oh,
like,
like
a
the
low,
gravel?
yeah, like a low, bassy sound to it. I
Yeah.
love shit like that.
Yeah, I watched a video of someone who was just going through a whole container of markers. She's like, I don't know which ones work or don't work. I'm gonna sit here on a pad of paper. I'm gonna go through all of these markers, and I'm gonna throw the ones that don't work. You know it, and just this. Like I was at work. I have one headphone in, and I'm like, this is the best. Do you have a question? What's up? What? You know, like I was so good. I'm like, what do you need? What?
A cat purr, I like. A cat
oh
purr.
yeah,
I could fall asleep to it.
Yeah,
That one I like.
yeah, that's a really
That's
good
just
one.
like, I just imagine a cat like right here just like purring. I'm just like,
And it's the
Yeah,
best feeling
yeah,
ever.
yeah.
If a cat
That's
ever
where
did
it's
that,
at, bro.
just
What's your favorite, Sheldon?
My favorite.
Do you have one?
I can't really think of one. Like I definitely, like breathing ones where like you like hear the sound of breath, because like there's the sensation sometimes that you're literally feeling like warm breath. It's not just like you're hearing the sound. It's like
you're feeling it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I would say that's got to be my biggest one. Like
Yeah.
just like a breathy, someone just speaking. So
Yeah.
when I see like whisper ASMR, I'm like,
That's the one.
let's
Yeah.
do that. You know.
Yeah. So honestly, like sometimes mouth sounds like it.
Sometimes people overdo it, which gets me.
Yeah. And it's like,
I'm
yeah,
like,
no. It's like, it's very
Jesus.
subtle. It's like the kind of stuff that you hear when people are talking. And it's also something that, like, if I hear it while somebody is talking in person, that actually will drive me crazy. It's
Yeah.
like just drink some water or something. Like,
Yeah. I think people think of it too, like the other weird thing about it is that people think that it's like sexual.
It's not.
It's not.
Like,
At
it's
all.
not. It's really not.
No,
yeah.
it's not at all. Like I'm not turned on like that at all. I'm just
Well, until
That-
they write that Cosmo article, no.
but it's really not. It's just an enjoyable
It's
sound.
just, yeah, it's just,
It's literally. I think like, come on, we're musicians. Like, of course, there's some random sound out there that we're like, oh my god, yeah.
And actually, like, thinking about that, I always wonder, like, how you could... I've thought about, like, writing ASMR, like, music. Like,
No.
wouldn't it be funny to, like, set up mics and, like, a ukulele, maybe with, like...
But, like, a lot of nail.
Yeah, exactly,
You know,
like, metal strings with
a
like...
purr in the background for no reason whatsoever.
Exactly. But, like, make music on that tiny scale
Yeah.
and, like, work on the sensation at the same time. Like, I think that would be very interesting.
I wonder, like, if we did that, could we get someone to just orgasm? We probably could.
Maybe.
Let's try.
Let's,
Yeah,
you
just,
know,
yeah, just think real hard about it.
Don't
Group project.
Yeah.
Let's go for it.
let's make that our goal. I was gonna say, if you Pink Floyd has I think the album is Umagamma, which is like all made from like just like literally no instruments. Right? Am I right? Am I wrong? I feel like it's Umagamma.
I know the name of the album, but I don't know what they did with it.
Yeah, where there's like literally no instruments. It's all like the whole album is just like pens and like different like things.
Really?
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, definitely check that shit out. It's fucking weird as shit. But I've had you guys on for a while now.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you guys coming on. Awesome conversation.
Yeah, thank you.
This is badass.
I
appreciate it.
Thank you, man. But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening, and hope you enjoyed. And yeah, see you later, man.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace.
Alright, I thought we were harmonizing. Never mind.
Man.